I'm excited to introduce this next session. For this next session, our presenter is Gabby Hernandez. Gabby is the Open Education Community Manager at SPARC, where she works to strengthen coordination across the open education field. Throughout her career as an elementary teacher, a youth services public librarian, and an academic open education librarian, she has built programs, supported educators, and increased access to learning materials for underserved students and communities. Today, she leads work in mapping the open education field, engaging the community, and creating shared resources to help move open education forward. Thank you. We're excited to have her.
Hi, everybody. Thank y'all so much. I'm really excited to be here with y'all today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get all of my windows situated. Okay, this. Okay, great. And if at any time my audio goes out, just please let me know so I can slow down. So hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining from local practice to collective futures and open education session today. Before we get started, I'd also like my colleague to introduce herself. She's going to help in this presentation today, and we're going to share a really short presentation to kind of set the context for today's session. So Aisha, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much, Gabby, and thank you so much, Mira, for the introduction. So, hi, everyone. My name is Aisha Abdullah. I am the Open Education Project Manager at SPARC, but I'm also a steering committee member for the Open Education Association, as well as providing staff support for the association. So, I'm really excited to spend some time not just talking about the association, but really learning from you all about how can association best assist your work and really help shape the programming and direction of this association.
Great. Thank you so much, Aisha. So yeah, just like Aisha said, we're just going to set the stage just a little bit and before we turn the presentation over to y'all. So I'm going to talk just a tiny bit about the Open Education Association, but as well as the National Needs Assessment Survey, just to get a sense of what's happening on the national landscape of open education before we zoom in to the amazing work that's happening here. So, open education is built on the simple but transformative idea that knowledge is a public good and that sharing it freely strengthens our collective ability to learn, create, and solve problems. For decades, many practitioners have been advancing this work, often through grassroots efforts and collaborative communities. The Open Education Association was founded in October 2025 to help support and connect that work across the country. The association works to reduce barriers throughout our education systems in order to expand access to knowledge and foster opportunity, participation, and growth for all. We are a professional membership association who aims to bring together practitioners, creators, leaders, and advocates who believe that sharing knowledge freely benefits everyone. Through programs, resources, and member-driven initiatives, we support the growth of open practices and the people who advance them. So since the very beginning, oh, sorry, and let me share a link. I'm not sharing my links with y'all. There we go. So since the beginning of this project, we understood that mapping the open education field was key to this work to truly understand the landscape of the field and the needs of the practitioners. So we launched the Open Education National Needs Assessment Survey, and it focused on individuals who are already engaged in or interested in US open education work with a specific focus on those in higher education. And we conducted the survey in spring 2025, and I know quite a few of you, I'm sure, filled it out. And we received input from over 1,000 community members across all 50 states. And 9 key areas of focus were identified from that survey. And those areas were things like efficiently finding OER, access to tools and resources to support your open education work, staying up to date about open education in general, responding to political and or technological changes that are affecting open ed, access to open education related professional development, securing funding for open education work, adopting and or publishing OER, networking and collaborating with open education peers, and receiving recognition for open education work. And overall, the results of that National Needs Assessment Survey showed a field that is broad, diverse, and is currently providing a significant amount of support for the most important needs of the field as prioritized by the respondents. And most of those respondents reported knowing where to turn for support and felt satisfied with the support that is available. So the Association Development Project felt that this suggested the greatest need is less about like a single solution and more about amplifying and uplifting all of the existing solutions to the work. Basically, how can we more effectively utilize the current solutions and resources, which is a clear path for a national association. The survey did indicate several areas of need where the association could prioritize its programming, which would be finding OER, particularly making it easier to find repositories where the OER exists, responding to change, and again, focusing on providing strategic guidance on how to navigate funding cuts, political restrictions, as well as navigating new technological advancements such as artificial intelligence and things of that nature. There was also finding funding. So finding funding for open education work, and the respondents really talked about finding that funding at institutional, system, and state levels, and accessing tools and resources to support open education work, especially like lists and how-to guides. So what's next? With all of this data as a roadmap, the Open Education Association is now taking action to support the education field and community. We are building shared resources, working on supporting professional growth, and creating space for practitioners to help shape the future of open education together, like we're doing today. We want to always focus the work of the association on the needs of the field and practitioners. We don't want to make assumptions about what the field needs, but we want to have conversations to understand the unique context of the work in each region and state. Part of our work right now is listening to the community and understanding what's already working well, where people are seeing opportunities, and how broader coordination can help amplify local efforts. And as a newly founded association, we believe sessions like this are incredibly important. Our goal today is to learn from you, your experiences, your work, and your perspective on what matters most in your local context. So today's session, like I said, is really about just creating space for conversations and connections and reflections so we can uplift and amplify your work in your state. And we want to center your voice to help inform what comes next. So that was my longest bit that I'll be saying today. The rest of it, we will open it up to a Padlet, so that way we can hear from you. So I have it on the screen. You can use a QR code. I'm also going to share a link in the chat and share my screen. So, and Aisha and I will go through the questions with you, and feel free to put your responses in. So I'm going to stop share really quick and then I'll reshare. Okay, I can do this. There it is. Okay. Okay, are we good? Can everyone see?
Yep, looks good.
Yes.
Okay, Aisha, do you want to start us off with our first set of questions?
Yes, sorry, couldn't find the unmute button. Yeah, so if people want to start in, so we want to first focus on like what are our strengths and bright spots when it comes to open education. So, interested in learning a bit about where is open education thriving in Ohio? And if you're not in Ohio and you want to share specifically about your state, feel free to still add that in and just let us know where you're residing. So, the conference, absolutely. Ohio Link, yes. Ohio Open Education Collective. Yes, totally. And we also have this actually really cool resource that Gabby put together called the State by State List. And I encourage you to look through it and see if your state is accurately represented. So for all our Ohioans, or is that what we call Ohio? If you could look through Ohio and see if Ohio is being accurately represented, if there's anything missing, you can let us know right now, or feel free to email us. Not in Ohio, but a growing community of practice of like-minded folks interested in OER work. Ooh, Justin, where are you located? This is so great. New Jersey.
New
Okay,
Jersey.
love that. You're not too far from me. I'm in Maryland. All right. So feel free to keep adding in. I'm going to move on to the next question, which is what work or initiatives deserve more visibility? And if you don't want to use Padlet, you also feel free to put it in the chat. That's totally fine. So we have innovative pedagogy from Tundra Explorer. I would love to learn more about that. Going back to our first question, we have CB at CSU saying love all the open sharing and teaching colleagues, awareness of all the resources open to the world. I'm going to grab our state by state list for y'all.
I got it.
Oh, thank you, Gabby. And thank you for resharing the Padlet link. I see a whole bunch of people are typing, so I'm just going to give time for people to add. Mandy put open work functioning spaces with campus-wide automatic textbook billing. Curious how this works. Yes, automatic textbook billing has been like a hot topic for a few years now. And how does open continue to exist when there is the presence of automatic textbook billing on the campus? Sharing OER resources across institutions. Yes. And like, is there ways we can make sharing OER and sharing just resources in general easier? Curious people's thoughts on that.
Or ways that you've seen it work really well in the
Hmm.
past.
Hmm. More efforts to encourage more educators aware and enhance adoption. Yes. OER awareness is always a very important salient topic in this community. How do we bring more people into the fold?
Mhm.
Responsible slash ethical ways of using AI to support OER authoring. Is this possible? Yeah, I love that um, point. AI, of course, is like the hot topic across many sectors right now, but especially in higher education. And it's like figuring out what place does it have in our community? What are the ethical ways to go about it? Is there a way to coexist ethically with AI? It's definitely a hot topic. Advertise new OER, like commercials to entice people. Ooh, yes. Okay. I would love a commercial. We can have a casting. We can have a casting director.
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, the University of Houston did a commercial because I'm from Texas. I'm in Houston, and of course, I talk about all of this with my family all the time. And my mom called me and was like, "I saw OER on TV," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" So it's possible, and
Oh
she
my
knew
God.
what it was because of all my gabbing that I've done about this. So yes, I agree. More in the public view.
Yeah, totally. Avenues for funding, yes. State level or national grants, donors. Yeah. We actually have an upcoming webinar on funding strategies for open education, and it's focused on mainly primarily focused on private foundations, but also exploring other areas um, to get funding. All right, want to move on to the next question. Don't want to spend forever on this. So let's throw some shine, whether it's a personal win, a win on your institution, colleague, or nationally. What wins, big or small, would you like to share? And I'll throw some shine on Gabby because we always say like the association does resources, but it's all Gabby. Like she does them all. So it's all her work, her list, all of that is just her doing her magic behind the scenes. So
Well, I will say that that is all collected from y'all and what y'all put through the listservs. I am like digging all the listservs I can find. So everything you share, I do my best to get all of that transferred. If there's anything in any of the resources that you see that you wish was better represented, like please send it our way. We're working on getting a form set up so it's easier to like add things. So anything you see that we could improve, ears wide open.
yeah, totally. Mandy Shed, very excited to hear about how our OpenCon Ohio pre-conference went here in Cleveland yesterday. If there's anyone who attended and want to share about that, I'd love to learn more. Pushed list of OER at faculty and about three abandoned their commercial textbooks. Okay, that's a huge win, Cosmos Dreamer. Pennsylvania. Okay, go off. Leveraging AI experimentation, gaining experience on what's working slash helping. Yes, love that. It's small. Oh, we have a case study. I'm gonna have to look at that. How to bridge the opens reconsidered. Congratulations, idea nurturer. No, this is huge. I wouldn't call this small.
None of these are small. Every win I feel in open education is always super huge and worth sharing.
Those lightning round demos and innovate use cases, so many great successes. Administrator buy-in for open efforts. Yes, that's a huge one.
If you have resources that you'd like to share on how you were able to get administrator
Mhm.
buy-in, those are the things
Yes.
we would love to like share and amplify and help collect that. So that way we can help each other across the US of like finding different ways. Because sometimes the hardest thing is just starting from scratch. Like I don't even know where to start. So if we can start collecting these, even just tiny stories, like if it was a sentence that really clicked, what was that?
Mhm.
We'd love to share.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, well, I'm going to go on the maybe a little bit deeper one, which is our challenges and gaps, which we know that there's always a lot of them. Better data collection, absolutely. Okay, sorry. So our challenges and gaps, what barriers what barriers do you encounter most of the time? And that could be just anything that you see barriers in your local work or barriers in state work or consortia work, just anything in general. Funding and support, yes. And that, let me share. Maybe Aisha, if you want to put the link to our funding or to our events page, so that way, hopefully, some of those conversations can spark more conversations of what needs to be talked about in terms of funding and support. Staff time and someone to lead the charge. Yeah, a lot of times people are working with multiple hats. Like we always hear that in conversation, like, which hat am I wearing today? And a lot of librarians and OER people are working with a lot of different things. And see, and this is, from administrative buy-in, faculty buy-in, all of these things. If we're able to share how it's worked in one place and share those and have collective resources to be able to like take a look at and get inspired of what you can pick and choose that might work best in your situation. This is rough, administrating counseling stipend for faculty adopting and adapting, because we know that it does take a lot of work to do this work for faculty, and those rewards, even if they're small stipends, they make a big difference. This is really interesting, initiative fatigue. Um, I completely agree. It seems like there's always like try this new thing or try this new teaching, um, teaching excellence. Like, what is this new teaching strategy? How does this look? What does it look like? Um, and really thinking about how can we utilize open education and what open education provides, and then start linking it to those initiatives. Like by utilizing open educational practices, you are actually checking like these other 10 innovative teaching practices boxes. And so it seems like, oh, if I just do this one thing, I'm actually checking a whole bunch of other boxes. Connecting to all the involved departments across campus, that is super important and very difficult. And sometimes you feel like, okay, this department's maybe doing great, but they're maybe not connected to the greater initiative. So you don't really know what's going on, what grants are being, what they're applying for, what they're creating. And so sometimes it feels lost, even at your own institution, of trying to figure out what everybody's doing. Misconceptions. Oh, this is rough. Administration who thinks affordability is not an issue for students. And that's just larger conversations. Thank you all so much. These are really great. So I'm going to move to our next two questions. So we have, where do practitioners most need additional support to keep this work moving forward? And what gaps do you see just in the open education field in general? Here we are back to financial support, templates and frameworks. Jill, if you have any ideas on what types of templates and frameworks are most needed, those are wonderful things, that we're interested in learning about. Like, what is it? What is that thing? Or what can we collect to help you create your templates and frameworks, and what types of areas? Improving search, absolutely. We need to make it easy to find things. This is really interesting, connecting with other faculty. When I was an open education librarian, and I would ask my faculty, do you know anybody at this institution? Because I know that they have a grant program that has a lot of money. And if you know somebody, then y'all can work together to apply. And they were like, no, I don't. So like, how do we start connecting faculty who are engaged and interested in and OER across, even just within like systems or states, would be really helpful. Support groups. Emerald Glacier, support groups, what kinds? Let us know. And gaps, lots of OER 101 professional development opportunities, not enough intermediate. Heirloom Keeper, you are very spot on. And part of the field mapping work, we were looking at how many like professional development opportunities are out there, not just like in-person ones or ones with facilitators, but also ones without. And we found so many, I found so many OER 101s, like so many. And like, how do you even know where to start with finding which ones, like the one you want to use, because there's so many. But intermediate and advanced, that's really great. These are the gaps that we're looking for. Politics of higher education. Yeah, I agree with making sure that we are focused on where are all of our underserved markets, and how can we make sure that everyone is working together and nobody being left behind. Great, thank you. Most needed. Yeah, and this comes with like research, like where are our gaps in the field of our own OER? And for support groups, chatting about the latest trends in OER, innovative practices, programs at different schools. I would find that as an open education librarian so impactful. Like, just how do you do the things? So what are your challenges? What do you do on a day to day? Wonderful. Thank you. Aisha, do you want to take the next one?
Yep. All right. So moving on to opportunities for collaboration. The first question we have is where do you see the greatest opportunity for cross-institutional collaboration? Sharing resources created by faculty members in the same field. Yes, shared resources. So that's like a +1 to the one before. Ancillaries development. Yeah, I saw that in a previous one of like getting everyone who teaches faculty who teach classes in the same topic to get together and develop those. Any other? And like what does that look like when we're thinking about cross-institutional collaboration? Like is shared resources, is it like another list, kind of like what we have on our website? Is it a listserv dedicated to that? Is that too duplicative? Is it working groups, communities of practice that meet monthly and kind of share with each other? Maybe like split up by discipline or by role, professional role. So feel free to like add those thoughts in anywhere in the chat, in the Padlet. Sharing promotional materials slash tactics and successes for events or outreach. Yeah. Like what were, if you had success with faculty buy-in, administrative buy-in, like what worked, what clicked? How can we share those best practices for the people who are doing the work on the ground to hear from other people who are maybe doing the exact same work just hundreds and thousands of miles away? Keep them coming. Love this. I'm going to move on to the next question. I'll go back to the previous one if more stuff comes in, but what kind of connections would be most valuable for practitioners? Connecting copywriters to illustrators and animators. Ooh, I'm curious, Jill, more about that. So role-based, regional, disciplinary, project-based, what kind of connections? Connecting like faculty with each other. And I'm curious if we have any faculty in the room, like how how do you meet other faculty at this point in open? Is it really just you talk to other faculty at your institution? Is it like you only connect with them at conferences? I'm very curious, like currently, or maybe there's no connection happening at all, but I'm very curious, like what, obviously this will vary greatly depending on who, but what type of connections or how are faculty currently connecting with each other? I say yes, pairing common and complementary interests from CB at CSU. Conferences and professional associations have been so helpful. I see April in the chat at PD in my institution and at my discipline conference. Okay, that's really good to know. So conferences seem like a big thing. Statewide open ed events and subcommittees. All right. So would you say you guys are mainly meeting people like within your state? Um, or is there some more like national connections happening across? Forums, monthly Zoom rooms, facilitated discussions. Oh, throwing out ideas. Thank you, Joe. National in my discipline. Thank you, April. Okay, Kale, some research groups on campus, STEM, especially physics, sciences. hmm This is really helpful. Thanks, guys.
It's so helpful.
Yeah, because we're always thinking like, how do we better bridge connections? So curious in like ways that you guys are currently being connected that works really well. And then what are other areas where maybe we can help facilitate some of that connection across the community? All right, moving on to our last question for this section. What shared win feels possible in the next couple years? So when thinking about collaboration and things we've talked about, what do we feel like is achievable in the next couple years?
Hmm.
The savings for students, totally. That's something that is happening this very moment as people continue to adopt OER. More community problem solving like this conference. Yes. Accessibility.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. I know the accessibility deadline got pushed back for those who are at like public institutions. However, I think it started a really great conversation around accessibility and the need for it and the role OER can play. So regardless of a deadline or not, there are things that need to be happening and conversations that need to be had. Having greater connections between practitioners at the state and national level. Yes. Good connections for adherence through conferences like these and organizations like yours. Mm, totally. And then like when it comes to conferences, it's like how do we maintain that's something at the Open Education Conference that we talk about a lot. Like we have all this energy for this 1 week throughout the year. How do we keep that energy going throughout the year and keep those connections going? So would love to learn, from this conference as
Mhm.
well. Like if there's anything y'all have learned, how to really keep people engaged and connected. All right, I know we're creeping up on time, so I'm going to pass it over to Gabby to do the next section.
So we have two little sections left. So the next one is what support would help most? So if a national association could help with one thing, like what should it be? Like if that's without, thinking about funding or capacity or sustainability, just like what in just the perfect world could an association provide help for in your work? So one thing we have is offering an institutional membership, signals buy-in and support for OER and OER commitment. And this is a great idea. One thing, a big thing that came up in the National Needs Assessment Survey, and just also that was just a part of the data collection of when we had our very long name of the what is it, the Open Education Association Development Project, when we were having to say all that every webinar. During that process, we not only did the National Needs Assessment Survey, we talked to all the current like pillars in the open education field, like all the organizations who are doing the work. We also talked to like just practitioners in general. Like we had lots and lots and lots of conversations. And the biggest thing was trying not to duplicate gaps, right? Like what or finding the gaps and not duplicating what already exists. And almost every single organization that currently exists within the open education field has institutional membership. And so something that practitioners were seeing was if one moves from one institution to another, if they're going from one institution that has that membership to another institution that doesn't, they are no longer connected to the field. And then how can they rebuild up that connection? So for the moment, the association is that was the reasoning behind it being a professional individual membership. So that way we can connect people and keep that connection to the field, no matter what job, no matter what you're doing, just keeping that continued practice. But other ideas of how institutions or states or organizations or things could showcase support, that is also something we want to think about and look into to the future. Grant funding, connecting potential donors with institutions who need financial support for this work. And that is a big thing. One of our areas of work and one of our goals and strategic pieces of the work is having conversations outside the open education field to bring broader audiences to the work. And so, making sure the more we get out there, the more the association is able to have those conversations, the more eyes and hopefully the more funding that we can get from various donors to help sustain the field. Help with visibility, like commercials. Yes, I love it. So that our people hear about it from more than just the campus cheerleaders. Idea nurture, I think this is so important. A lot of times when I was working as an open education librarian, I would just straight up tell the administrators, I'm just the library. Like, yes, the library is important, but I'm the librarian. I'm the lowest seated person at this table. We want to make sure that faculty see this as important to the institution, not just a library initiative. And we all know the workers doing this work, we know it's so much bigger than just a library initiative, but what does that visibility look like to a faculty who's reaching out for the first time? Is it just a library thing, or is the entire institution or whole system or whole state or whole nation behind, what this work is and how it can improve student outcomes? Sustaining engagement. Yeah, excitement might be there. Yeah. And the sustained engagement too, that was a big thing, when it comes to students too, like our students come and go, but they're such an important voice as well in this work and they're heard. And so how do we not only sustain our engagement with faculty, but administrators and students and all of the audiences that engage with this work? Great. So we'll keep going. What kind of national support would make the biggest difference? Political advocacy with state and local government, absolutely. And if you're interested, you can sign up for our newsletter. And our newsletter, we're showcasing different political advocacy actions that the association has taken thus far, different letters of support, and just all different kinds of things that are happening. So we have those written in our blog. So the resources in our blog are there to kind of tell about those stories, but we're also trying to put together more to make it easier for practitioners to engage with and see and perhaps mimic and duplicate what's happening in other states. So that way the political advocacy is shared, or like how to politically advocate is shared more widely. And then the last question in this section is how can a national organization amplify local or regional leaders and their work? Yeah, just partnering to support the mini regional open ed conferences and summits. There are so many now, and that's also why part of one of the lists was the open education conference list, because our field is it's so many regional conferences are happening and it's amazing. And so that's why we're trying to keep them. If there's more that you know of that aren't represented on this list, let us know. Because, going back to political advocacy and going back to visibility, the more field mapping we do, the more we can showcase that this is not just a small initiative. So much work is happening across the entire US, every region, every state, and to help external fields and external funders realize how vast the field really is and how important the movement is to so many students. Providing more opportunities to connect, spotlight and highlight people, good works, new publications. Absolutely, all the spotlights. We want to do all the spotlights. But then when like opportunities to spotlight are open, we don't always get people to want to share. So if you have ideas too on how to help people feel comfortable and confident to spotlight the work, because like if we go back to the beginning, those were amazing stories. Like we want to share all of that amazing work. So how do we create environments that people feel comfortable and confident to share, that it's not just a small thing? That these stories inspire not only external people, but also the people doing the work and give ideas to continue what's happening. So I believe we only have just a couple of minutes left. So Aisha, do you want to take the last one and then we can wrap up?
Yeah, we can speed run it. All right. So the last one is looking ahead. So we've had a lot of great discussion today, shared a lot of great practices, ideas, and all of that. And what's really important to us is making sure that these conversations don't just happen and then end here, but what do we take with all the information that we are getting? So even throughout this entire conference, like the sessions you're attending, if you went to the pre-conference, all those things, like how do we take that and see something emerge from it, whether it's big or small, whatever the case may be. So, what is one next step you would like to see emerge from this community conversation. And if it's not this conversation, if it's something that you learned earlier, really strongly encourage you to still learn it. I mean, to still share it, and we can see what comes next after this. More active participation in local working group. Uh, Working groups are also, they're great in terms of getting experience, networking, learning from one another. Any other thoughts? What about community in the chat Amanda shared? What about community spotlights of statewide initiatives? It would be another avenue to help people find local resources. Yeah, totally. And I know we do like the Open Ed Digest that spotlights a lot of state work, but how can we even like rethink about the way that we do that, um, and be able to really point to some amazing work that's going on? From Idea Nurturer, you have some sharing some love. Thanks for the support. It's much appreciated both to the organization and from the OpenCon people. Thank you so much for attending. And thank you, of course, the OpenCon people for having us. And then the last thing we have is just if you have any questions for us, this Padlet will remain open. So if there's any ideas that you come across, anything you think of that you want to add, please feel free to continue to contribute to it. If you have any questions, you can put them in here. If you want to reach out directly, we have an email, which Gabby will put in the chat. And happy to talk about this. And thank you so much, Mandy, for contributing.
So I put a couple of links in the chat as I get our contact link, but we have our website here. Like Aisha said, this is going to be open, and I'll even drop it in the Discord channel. I think it's so great that y'all have that. So I'll put the Padlet and links in the Discord channel for y'all to have. And we have, like we said, a couple of upcoming webinars. One is about funding strategies, and another is about micro-credentials, as well as registration is open for the Open Education Conference. So if you're interested in that, that information is there. And we just really appreciate all of this amazing work. All of this is going to get shared and distilled back to the conference organizers. So that way this information isn't lost, as well as we will take this, as well as the other conversations we've had with other states and regions, and try to continue to move the work forward. So we just truly appreciate you all taking the time to share all of your wonderful insights and your hard work.
Thank you both so much. We really appreciate it. We have about 15 minutes before we reconvene. But yeah, if you're inspired, feel free to keep adding to the Padlet. It's great.